Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Medtech Impact Podcast, where you get to hear from leaders and innovators who are shaping the future of medical technology. I'm Kyle Cruz.
And I'm Richard Meiklejohn.
And we're your hosts of the show.
So, today on the Medtech Impact Podcast, we are delighted to be joined by David Constantine, CEO and co-founder of Juniper Biomedical. David, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much for having me.
David, I'm so excited having you on the show. I think this has been a long time coming, as we were discussing just before we jumped on here. And honestly, just reflecting, this is probably our final episode of the year. So great guest, great discussion, I'm sure it's going to be. And looking back, a year ago we had Maria Artemduaga on the show. So it's kind of nice to have that continuity with you guys, both being, finalists and winners at Medtech Innovator recently. So again, it's such a great story to tell. And, looking forward to getting into this. Before we sort of get into the technology, we do like to set the stage for the audience and talk about, what is that big problem that Juniper Biomedical is looking to solve?
Sure. Well, overall, very broadly speaking, there's been a real lack of profound innovation in the treatment of conditions in pelvic health. So urinary incontinence, fecal incontinence, chronic pelvic pain, sexual dysfunction, both in men and women, and particularly women. There's just been a dearth of innovation that really moves the needle. And it makes sense that most innovation in the space has been adjacent to what's out there. So, longer battery or a slightly different implant or whatever the case may be. A lot of earlier in the care journey type of innovation, meeting the patient for behavioral modification or things that are more kind of over the counter, if you will. And our company is focused on a dramatic improvement to therapies. So we're really going after not just moving the needle a little bit, but a lot. Our first application that we're pursuing is the treatment of mixed urinary incontinence. Now, that's the combination of both urge incontinence and stress incontinence. Now, if a person's just dealing with a leak, they don't necessarily identify, is it urge or is it stress? It's not something that somebody at home is going to spend time trying to think about. But when they get into the clinic, that's how the care paradigm is set up today. There are 78 million women in the United States who have either urge or stress incontinence. And over a third, we've actually, through our market research, identified that it's more like 2/3 have both, called mixed incontinence. And there's no treatment in the market today for moderate to severe mixed incontinence. Instead, doctors have to tease out which is the dominant condition, either urge or stress, to then offer them a major invasive implant. And over 90% of patients who are good candidates for those major invasive implants don't get them. They don't want them. They're not attractive. It's glaring. So the problem, if you want to summarize it, is there's no treatment for mixed incontinence. There's an increased diagnostic burden for those with mixed incontinence to receive treatment. And the options that are out there today are unattractive to patients.
And the numbers are staggering. I mean, when you mentioned 78 million women,
it's nuts.
It's
just bananas.
Why is this? I mean, I'm maybe if I've missed this, but why are we not seeing more innovation when it is such a significant problem?
This is a much longer conversation where there have been a lot of vocal people trying to highlight this. It's just very, very normalized. It's really normalized. So on the stress side, stress is predominantly women. It's also men after a prostatectomy, but predominantly like 95+% women. And it's marginalized, it's normalized. People go into their doctor and they say, I now go for a run, or when I cough, laugh, sneeze, exercise, anything that increases the intra-abdominal pressure, I get a leak. What's the deal? And they'll often get, you're just getting older, or that's what happens after you have children, and kind of good luck and deal with it. And there's a whole aisle when you go to CVS or Walgreens that has options for this, and those are pads, inserts, diapers, maybe some behavior modification sort of support tools. But it's really unfortunate that there's just normalized, marginalized, and the options out there. Most of the innovation capacity of med tech has gone toward heart, brain, cancer, ortho, and it makes sense that would be the case. But it's left an ecosystem with a very, very large pained patient population lacking.
I mean, it's troubling hearing, that so many people face so many problems, and I also think like there's this kind of taboo aspect to this that you don't talk about it in some sense. So I think that's maybe an element of this that even though as big as it is, and it's all over CVS, but at the
Yeah.
same time, you don't go and tell your friends, hey, I've got this problem.
No.
It's just one of those again hidden things. And Kyle, as David was talking about, it's not just women. There's clearly there's men suffering from these problems as well.
I mean, yeah, and what's even I think a little bit more troublesome to hear is that it is it really kind of a guessing game on what's causing the incontinence and hey, well, here let's try to solve it with this type of implantable solution that actually might not even be the right solution. It might not even work and actually solve the problem. To me, that's scary.
Yeah, it is. It is scary, and I think it's part of that is it's not that you have bad practitioners there. It's just that it's
Right.
the diagnostics are both objective and subjective. There are objective measures that are actual clinical tests
Mm-hmm.
that involve some sort of tool, and then there are questionnaires that are validated and well structured and insightful. But in the end, you're dealing with a lot of subjective information that can move this way or that way, depending on how the patient decides to answer it. So and for patients that have a little bit of both, which is a lot of them, it's sometimes hard to tease out.
Yeah.
Your other point though, Richard, about it's not the thing that people tell you about is really glaring. And this is something I personally encountered before we started this company. Um, I didn't realize how many people that were around me, I mean, in my house, let alone elsewhere in my family and close friend group that suffered from some of these conditions, and they didn't tell me about it. And of course, as soon as they found out that I was doing something in this area, they were like, yeah, me.
Hmm.
When's it going to be done?
Wow.
Happens all the time to everybody on our team too. It's really remarkable how many people are affected and how few people discuss it.
I did want to ask as well, like, what about the clinician feedback? So, like, like, are people are talking to their doctors and telling them that it's a problem? What are you getting in terms of the clinician feedback saying, hey, we need to improve this to do something better? Like, what's that sort of insight?
Well, we've done a lot of interviewing and then a lot of surveying. So we have a pretty solid body of information to inform the outlook on what patients are thinking about and what doctors are thinking about. And on the physician side, I think that there's they do a very good job. The specialists do a very good job of supporting patients with the tools that they have. I think there could be an improvement in the tools that they can use, both diagnostic tools and therapeutic tools. Earlier in the care journey, I think that the primary care, the first care encounter that people have could do a better job of screening and supporting those patients. And I'm speaking very generally. I'm not suggesting that clinicians are just bad at their job, but just that area, that one area, I think that they could do a little bit better of job um, guiding patients toward options and not simply saying, yeah, this is part of getting older. Uh, this is part of childbirth. This is part of your next evolution. Deal with it.
Well, it sounds like those options need to be improved,
Mhm.
and it sounds like they need to be innovated. So go ahead, David, tell us. We're on the edge of our seat here. Now, what's Juniper Biomedical doing to help drive innovation and solve these incontinence challenges?
Yeah, so we have a unique neuromodulation micro implant. It is, at least as far as we are aware of, the smallest battery-powered peripheral nerve stimulator that's going to be in the market. And what differentiates our core technology is that we deliver a very precise therapy. Most neuromodulation today is stimulating, if you will, the trunk of the tree, large multifascicular nerves
Mm-hmm.
at very high power, usually not even on the nerve, so near the nerve through a wire lead, delivering energy through volume conduction to that nerve. And the consequence of that is that it's not very precise. It's prone to patient variability and side effects. In contrast, we go way down on a distal branch directly to a target, right on the nerve, deliver a very low power, highly precise therapy. And that allows us to approach different applications that other technologies wouldn't pursue. So for For urinary incontinence, we have a beautiful application where we have the ability with this implant that's in the current embodiment half the size of a US dime, to be implanted with a minimally invasive procedure coupled directly to that novel nerve target, and treat both urge and stress symptoms with one implant. So one implant, one nerve, one procedure, and we can treat both urge and stress symptoms, the full solution for mixed incontinence. And by making this a minimally invasive procedure with a very small implant that requires only a local anesthesia for implantation, it is much more attractive to patients. The patient willingness to be treated is very high, relatively speaking.
Wow. So it sounds like, I mean, I love it. I love the simplicity here, but the effectiveness too. And it sounds like then kind of back to what you were saying at the beginning where, you don't know exactly what might be causing the incontinence, but maybe with your technology and when it's, implanted the right way on that very specific nerve, maybe you have more control of providing an outcome that actually treats the patient effectively.
Yeah, it takes that diagnostic burst. So it solves those three problems. It provides a solution to treat the mixed scenario. It removes the diagnostic burden of evaluating which is the dominant part of it, and then provides a solution that patients are much more willing to engage in, and the doctors are very excited to use. So it checks those three boxes and provides an opportunity for pretty dramatic improvement for mixed incontinence patients.
This is awesome, and I just want to make a comment because something that's always been just near and dear to my heart is the innovation around bioelectronic medicine. Now, I don't know if you use this term at all, but this is to me exactly what I'm hearing. This is bioelectronic medicine. I truly believe this is the future of treating patients. We've seen a lot of this obviously in cardiology, electrophysiology types of procedures with the heart. I remember learning about that actually from a gentleman by the name of Juan Pablo Mas. He is, I hope he hears this one day, right? Because this guy is a rock star. He was he started his career at Medtronic, a Stanford grad, was like rookie of the year at Medtronic. He's gone off. He started Action Venture Potential Capital, whatever it is.
Action Potential Venture Capital. I used to work with
this guy is
very early in my career, very early.
Yeah. So this guy is amazing, right? And he's been one of the people that I met 10 years ago when I started in this career in this industry. And I remember him talking about bioelectronic medicine, and now seeing the applications now outside of the heart, and now I've seen essential tremor, and now I'm hearing it now in pelvic health and what you're doing. I mean, this is really exciting stuff.
It really is. It's if you look at the landscape, and Juan Pablo is a really smart dude, and clearly knows this space very, very well. And we have used the term bioelectronic medicine, but default to neuromodulation because I think more people are at least aware of it as a term. But the landscape of neuromodulation or bioelectronic medicine we're just at the beginning. I mean, there's so much that we can do when we interface with the nervous system. It is really at its inception. I mean, I know we goes all the way back to cardiac rhythm management in the middle of last century or even earlier maybe. But there's so much that we can do, and the innovation in batteries, in neural interfaces, our knowledge and understanding of the nervous system, using those technologies, it's evolving so rapidly. It's a steep curve. It's pretty exciting. The next 20 years are going to be wild in this space.
But that knowledge and understanding, again, as you say, it's so exciting, the potential of what you're going to learn over this next phase. So, that thinking about that data side, is this purely the neuromodulation in terms of therapeutic, again, or what's that data side where you have a sensory capacity or a better understanding of what's going on through that process?
Yeah.
Is there something there?
We do. It's not as our core first market application, but there is absolutely a sense and stimulation, a closed loop outlook for all and our technology, no question. I think that when you look at new technologies in neuromodulation, unless they're doing the exact same thing that someone else has been doing for years, with a slightly different device or a slightly different battery life or whatever the case may be, it warrants gathering deep data sets that can really inform the outlook. And so we've taken a very data heavy approach, because it's really important to understand the mechanism of action as much as you can, and to be able to characterize what you're bringing to the market. I think in medtech, I think there's sometimes a sprint to market that leaves you in market with a dearth of adequate supporting information, and there's a sprint to go and gather that information post-market. We started early on. We did 27 preclinical studies with over 220 specimen to inform our approach to the development, to our approach to the market, our understanding of what this technology can do, what the physiologic response to this stimulation, how it works. Understanding that deeply was really part of our pursuit, not as a science project, as a commercial endeavor, but to do it diligently.
Love it. I mean, it just talks to the methodical approach you're taking with all this, the fact that you've got such an incredible foundation with all that preclinical work. And again, this year, we were talking about before you came on, like you've just been absolutely crushing it. What have been some of the highlights for you so far this year?
Oh man, we've everything. It's been a really, just this morning we had an executive meeting that we were running through all of the things we did. The beginning of the year we had a different name. Just that as a reference point was sort of a remarkable thought. That feels like it was 5 years ago. We kicked off a clinical study. We conducted 7 preclinical studies over the course of the year. We're finishing up our clinical implant development. I mean, there's a whole stack of execution wins over the course of this year. And we haven't been remarkably loud about all of those incremental wins, but internally we're, it's pumping fists. It's pretty exciting to pull in a series seed closure in April. It was oversubscribed in a pretty tough year to raise capital, winning the Neuromod prize. That was the phase 2 of the Neuromod prize from NIH Spark program, which was a great win, phenomenal win, and being part of phase 3, which is going on right now. And that came with some cash award. It's been a really rapid ascent over the course of the year. It's been awesome.
Absolutely awesome. I mean, yeah, again, delighted for you and just seeing all the way that you're making such great progress. So kind of looking ahead with this go-to-market side, like what's that play in front of you? What's coming up in terms of clinical trials?
So we're taking a very rigorous approach to clinical studies. Our plan for our pilot study is pretty rigorous, frankly. We're not going after a perfunctory safety data set. I think that with this market, we're going to probably end up with a modest size pivotal and do a bunch of post-market studies, just like any other medtech company. I think the important thing that we're thinking about is making sure that we're de-risking the innovation sequentially. So we're doing right now in a clinical study offers risk reduction with respect to implantation procedure and stimulation parameters, so that when we move into the fully implanted pilot study, we're not encountering some of those variables for the first time. And the learning curve is steep. You get a lot of wonderful insights when you're building new procedure, when you're using a really novel technology. It's a lot of fun, and when you crack a code, it's really motivating to the team. You move forward pretty quickly.
And you're flying the Massachusetts flag here. You're based out at UMass Chan Medical School. Are you partnering primarily with the medical school, or what's that sort of partnership look like in terms of the clinical trial work?
So we're not doing our clinical studies specifically with UMass. We theoretically could. We haven't focused on that yet. We're one of the M2D2 companies at UMass Medical School, at UMass Medical Center, and that system has been really advantageous for us. We've been able to do cadaver studies and other preclinical work there that's been advantageous. So I think our US pilot study will be there's certainly a possibility, but that's not why we're there.
Yeah, well, maybe again, just to highlight the M2D2 resource, it's incredible. I know that we had Casey Kadir from Hubley Surgical on, and she made fantastic progress by accessing those same cadaver resources. So it's MTD2 is just a fantastic resource. I think probably about 20% this year of the Medtech Innovator companies had some sort of tie to
Yeah.
M2D2, which is an incredible representation and just kind of goes to show, all the exciting stuff that's happening here locally.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. M2D2 is a fantastic resource and it's a fantastic concentration of resources. Medtech Innovator was an unbelievable program. So I mean, this is the problem with asking me what were the highlights of the year. It just keeps going. We have awesome new team members. We were one of the grand prize finalists for the M2D, or I'm sorry, Medtech Innovator, and going through Medtech Innovator itself, forget the awards. That community is awesome. Awesome. I had no idea. Honestly, I really didn't. I didn't recognize before going through that program how awesome it is. It is really, if you are eligible as a company and you don't apply, you're nuts.
Well, shout out to Paul Grand, baby, huh?
Absolutely.
Look at that. That's awesome. And it's something that we hear, a lot. Obviously, Rich and I, we're out here all the time. We're talking to, companies like yours, and it's really great. We're the ecosystem, right, is blessed to have, folks like him and organizations and groups and, just everyone coming together to do whatever it takes to help bring these technologies to market, right? Because we know how hard it is. I mean, think about it. You can invent anything. I don't want to go on a tangent here, but you can go out and invent anything. You can't just go out and invent a medical device for you to market as simple as
Yeah.
maybe something else, right? I
Yeah.
mean, just what founders, the selflessness too that it takes from a founder to bring a technology to market, knowing like this is no get rich quick scheme. This is nothing
No.
besides you're truly trying to solve a problem, and it takes the best of the best elite caliber people, elite caliber programs to make that happen. So for you to, say that, that's great to hear.
Let me add something to that, Kyle. I think it's really important, and that one thing that MedTech Innovator does an impeccable job of, and it's not a given, and we have to be honest with ourselves that our community, despite the common characteristic of a kind of altruistic sense, not everybody's all that wonderful. I mean, there are some just like anywhere else, there are some jerks on every team, right? But the community of MedTech Innovator has done an incredible job of filtering for coachability and a desire to help each other. So when I say being part of the community, it's not just because like we can wear the pin on our sleeve or collar. It's that the people around us, the other innovators, the other companies, no matter how close or how far away from your area of focus they are, have an ability to and actually genuinely pursue with an incredible desire to help whatever it is that you need. It's a great group of people. And I'm talking about the teams, I'm talking about the staff, I'm talking about the mentors and judges and people that help to make it what it is. It's phenomenal.
Yeah. What about now? Let's come back to Juniper here,
Yeah.
and really curious. You've done a lot of clinicals. It sounds like you're doing a lot of studies. Sounds though that you still have, some ways to go. Maybe.
Yep, absolutely.
What does that next 6 to 12 to 18 months look like? What can people expect to see? And what are your expectations for Juniper?
So we're not raising a round right now, but we'll raise in 2025. We'll raise a Series A. It's anticipated to be a $26 million Series A that's going to get us through a randomized controlled study on the far end of it. So a pretty robust data set. And leading up to that, we're in pretty much a full sprint to all of the other independently of fundraising toward commercialization. So all the remaining nuanced development work, refinement of the whole kit that goes into the implanted device. And then following the Series A, that sprint to the IDE, it's not necessarily going to happen within the next calendar year. But as soon as we close that A, we will be in a full sprint up to the IDE.
Wow. Yeah, that's really exciting.
It is. It is, and our team's ready for it.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. And again, you've been on the stage of LSI, so that's another fantastic platform. Love to highlight. What lies ahead for you in terms of events? Where do people find you? What's on your calendar coming up in 2025?
It's funny. I was really I did way back. I've spent a lot of time at events. I was one of the co-founders of Mass Challenge, just there for the first year and a half. But nonetheless, I got an experience of going to like 3 events a night, and it was just bananas. I got my fill of events. The first 3.5 years of this company, I didn't go to any events. I spent time with direct contacts, and I wasn't just locked in my office or anything, but I wasn't trying to socialize the company. We're sort of pseudo stealth. We actually took part in Mass Challenge as a team member, went through MEM2D2, but very, very early on. We just started to come out and get a little bit more public this year. So we rebranded. We were, I was at probably 11, 12 events. We spoke formally, invited to speak at 8 different events, including a couple of physician conferences, clinical conferences. This coming year, I will be at a lot of events. So I will be at JPM. I'll be at LSI. I plan to be at the AdvaMed CEO conference. I've got a nice long list throughout the year, but my goal is to really be a little bit more present in the community than I have in years past.
Very nice. Yeah, and you say there's all these opportunities to get out there, and it's exciting. I'm sure people will be wanting to hook up with you after hearing all this. What about getting in touch? What's that best way for doing that?
Sure. So general, we have an inquiries email, inquiries at juniperbiomedical.com. You can reach me at david.constantine@juniperbiomedical.com. We have a LinkedIn page that we try to keep modestly fresh, though we're not trying to saturate it, but you can track us there if you'd like. And we have a website, juniperbiomedical.com, of course.
Fantastic. Well, again, given everything you've been talking about, I'm sure the people will want to get in touch with you, whether that's from the Medtech Innovator, but clearly exciting about what's happening with Juniper. You guys are on such an exciting trajectory. And again, it's just such an underserved space. So, we take our hat off to you for your leadership and everything you're doing to improve the condition and improve the lives of patients.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me on. I'm a big fan of your show and the conversations that you draw out of people. It's pretty cool. Thank you.
Awesome.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, another huge thank you to David Constantine, CEO and co-founder of Juniper Biomedical. And thank you for tuning in to another episode of the MedTech Impact Podcast. I'm Kyle Cruz.
And I'm Richard Beaglejohn. Until next time, keep innovating.